Fast story. Growing up, I always felt a deep sense of responsibility toward my family. My parents worked hard to provide for us, and I admired their unwavering dedication. My younger brother, Jake, has been disabled since birth, and while that came with its challenges, it also shaped how we lived as a family. From a young age, I understood that Jake needed more attention and care. My parents often explained this to me, reassuring me that their love for both of us was equal. Even if their focus on Jake was greater out of necessity, I believed them. As the years passed, I took on my role as the capable sibling with pride. I excelled in school, built a career, and tried to make life easier for my parents where I could. I never resented Jake, how could I? He didn't ask to be born with the challenges he faces. But there were moments when the imbalance in our family dynamics began to weigh on me. Birthdays that were overshadowed by Jake's needs, vacations that turned into medical trips, and a persistent, unspoken expectation that I would be the one to step up as Jake's caretaker someday. Still, I told myself it was fine. Family sacrifices for each other. That's what love looks like, right? But then, last year, my parents sat me down for a conversation that changed everything. They had been updating their will, and they wanted to be transparent. Almost all their assets, our family home, savings, and investments would be left to Jake. I would receive a small portion, just enough, they said, because I was independent and successful. Jake, on the other hand, would need financial support for the rest of his life. I listened silently, nodding as they explained their reasoning. They spoke about fairness, about how Jake's future would always be uncertain, and about their trust in me to look out for him. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about money. It was about the role I was expected to play, a role I had never explicitly agreed to. They didn't see me as their child with equal needs and dreams. They saw me as Jake's safety net. When the conversation ended, I thanked them for telling me, and excused myself. But inside, I was unraveling. I couldn't shake the feeling that my entire life had been leading up to this momentous moment, where I realized that, in my parents' eyes, my worth was tied to what I could provide for Jake. It hurt more than I expected. For the first time, I felt invisible. Over the next few months, I wrestled with my emotions. Was I being selfish, ungrateful? Did I owe my parents and Jake this sacrifice simply because I could manage it? Every time I tried to talk to my parents about how I felt, they brushed it aside. "You're strong," they said. "We know you'll understand." But I didn't. How could they not see that I was drowning under the weight of their expectations? Eventually, I made the decision to step back. I wrote them a letter explaining how I felt, though their choice to prioritize Jake, while understandable, left me feeling sidelined and unvalued. I told them that I needed time and space to figure out what kind of relationship I could have with them moving forward. It wasn't an easy letter to write, and it certainly wasn't easy to send. But I knew that staying silent would only deepen the resentment growing in my heart. Their response was swift and emotional. They accused me of being heartless, of abandoning my family in their time of need. My mother cried on the phone, begging me to reconsider. My father's voice was cold, as he told me he never thought I'd turn my back on them. But was I turning my back? Or was I simply choosing to protect myself? In the months since, I've stayed firm in my decision. I've spoken to a therapist, who helped me unpack the guilt and grief tied to my choice. I've leaned on friends who reminded me that boundaries are not betrayals. And I've started to see that cutting off my parents wasn't about punishing them, it was about reclaiming my own sense of worth. I still love my brother. I still want him to have the best life possible. But I can't be his savior. And I can't continue a relationship with my parents if it's built on the unspoken understanding that my needs will always come second. Maybe one day, we'll find a way to reconnect. But for now, I need to be my own person, free from the weight of expectations I never agreed to carry. So, am I the asshole for cutting off my parents? Because they plan on leaving almost everything to my disabled brother? Some might say yes, that family should always come first, no matter the cost. But others might see what I see, story about boundaries, self-worth, and the courage it takes to walk away from a dynamic that no longer serves you. Second story.